Hi, boys and girls, back again. So, you just finished chapter 14, you wrote your little short summary, and now it's time for chapter 15. Chapter 15 is titled The Man Who Couldn't Sit Down. Now, I don't know about you, but that picture does not look like a man. Unless we're talking like Sasquatch, Bigfoot kind of thing. That thing looks to me more like a bear. But there's a man who couldn't sit down. Why would someone not be able to sit down? So let's read to find out what in the world they're talking about.
15. The Man Who Couldn't Sit Down. They pitched camp and they broke camp. Day after day they followed running water. They washed out prospects, scraped from behind rocks and boulders in the stream bed. Spangles had a way of trapping themselves out of the current. When they found bits of color, they dug in. At times, Praiseworthy spent the entire day with his boots apart, swinging the pick in great arcs. Where the prospects looked good, they labored to follow the specks of gold to their source, which either disappeared or ended at someone's claim. Where the fleas were bad at night, they stuck a lit candle in the floor of the tent, and in the morning Jack would count the visitors to see whose gold pan had trapped the most. He kept track.
I'm ahead by 82 dead varmints,
he announced at the end of their first week of prospecting.
And I've got the live varmint bites to prove it,
Praiseworthy answered, scratching his back. The days were long and hot. Yellow poppies had burst open on the hillsides like scatterings of fool's gold. Sometimes Jack would catch Praiseworthy gazing out over some distant view as if it didn't matter if they ever got back to Boston.
Smell that air, partner,
Praiseworthy would say, as if mountain air had just been discovered. Paydirt eluded them, but the next bend in the river might make their fortune. They met other prospectors every day, and at times there seemed to be more pack mules and burros in the hills than jackrabbits. After supper one night, Praiseworthy and Jack sat around their coffee fire, and a miner came along on muleback.
Have a cup,
said Praiseworthy, smoking one of the long 9 cigars he had taken a fancy to.
Can't stop,
said the miner, as if he had a mouthful of gravel. A bandana was tied around his face, and one cheek was swelled out.
Got a powerful toothache. Much obliged anyhow.
Where are you heading?
Over to the shirt tail camp. I hear they got a tooth extractor up there.
Jack pricked up his ears. Praiseworthy lowered his eyebrows.
Would his name be Higgins?
Doc Higgins. That's him.
The miner gave his mule a small kick with his heels and was gone. Jack shook his head.
I hope I don't get a toothache. No, sir.
The imposter. So that's where he ran off to. Cut-Eye Higgins, dentist of Shirt Tail Camp. No doubt he extracts teeth and gold pouches at the same time.
Okay, Jack and Praiseworthy. We still don't know who this man is who couldn't sit down. But what have we just found out? Yeah, right? Cut-Eye Higgins? He's pretending to be the dentist of Shirt Tail Camp. So, that Cut-Eye, even though he disappeared out of Hangtown real fast, they now know where he is again. He's pulling people's teeth. And they've got to hurry up and get over to him. Well, the guy that they meet, right? Because they just started looking for gold. They haven't found much, just little bits here and there. They haven't staked a claim yet, meaning they haven't put out their pegs to say, hey, this is the area we're digging for sure. So they've just been, getting little bits. But we now know where Cut-Eye Higgins is. Don't forget that.
The days passed in sweat and hard labor. The two partners kept on the move, looking for a claim to stake. They passed from ravine to ravine. The findings were slim. Still, Praiseworthy sang as he swung the pick, and Jack whistled a great deal. They got used to the sight of Digger Indians. The women in bright calico dresses would come to the edge of the stream to pan in tightly woven flat baskets. The gold fever had passed no one by.
Oh, it ain't gold fever the diggers has got,
A prospector told them.
the yellow stuff don't mean a thing to them. It's calico fever them ladies has got. And the men, they got serape fever and red sash fever. That's what they trade their dust for, poor devils. They do like to dress up, don't they? Like a bunch of young'uns.
Stubb caused them no trouble as long as they treated him with the respect due a mule. Slowly, Praiseworthy and Jack added dust to their gold pouches, but they were as far as ever from striking it rich. Here and there could be seen mounds of dirt and coyote holes where other miners had tried their luck. They passed through abandoned camps where Chinese had moved in to sift through the diggings left behind by others. And they always seemed to be finding color that had escaped the pans and long toms and rockers that had come before them. Jack had seen rockers made out of anything from provision boxes to hollowed out logs. When finished, they had the look of cradles. You shoveled dirt into a hopper at the top, added water, and rocked the spangles through to riffles in the bottom. Men could be found on almost every claim rocking the cradle like grizzled nursemaids. Jack was fond of carrying the squirrel gun. They had been shooting what small game they could, especially after their bacon gave out. One afternoon late in July, after they had made camp, it seemed to Jack that he couldn't face another plate of beans. He picked up the squirrel gun.
I'm going to hunt us a jackrabbit for dinner,
He declared.
I can't imagine anything that would taste better,
Said Praiseworthy, chewing on a piece of oat straw.
I'll be back.
I'll expect you.
Jack wandered off, with the gun in the crook of his arm. He could feel new muscles along his shoulders, and his legs had a spring to them. If Aunt Arabella and his sisters could see him now, he thought, they'd faint away. 1, 2, 3. He stopped to take aim at a mountain cat he imagined crouched on the limb of a tree. Bam! He'd skin it and make himself a hat. The sun was setting, and the sky turned red. He raised a pair of gray doves, but he didn't have the heart to shoot them. They flew off, making a sound as if their wings squeaked. High in the trees, carpinteros were hammering away with their beaks. Not woodpeckers, he imagined himself explaining to Constance and Sarah. We call 'em carpinteros in the diggings. Praiseworthy took advantage of Jack's absence to try a little shadow boxing. He turned the pages of the book over in his mind.
Elbows in, left jab, feint. Duck, sir, duck. Now the right. Put your shoulder to it, sir.
The sky began to darken, and Jack was unable to flush a rabbit. Instead, he flushed a grizzly bear. The great furry beast came crashing out of the shadows. He stopped, seeing Jack for the first time. Jack stood instantly petrified. He felt as if his boots were suddenly nailed to the ground. 20 yards away stood a grizzly, and all he had was a squirrel gun. The animal rose on its hind legs and showed his teeth in a warning snarl. Jack tried to remember the things Mountain Jim had once told him about trapping grizzlies, but he didn't have a trap. He just had a squirrel gun, and the brute would brush off squirrels shot like so many flies. The grizzly opened his mouth wider, dropping some half-chewed acorns, and roared.
I'm done for.
Jack thought.
Done for.
He got his feet to move. He began to back up. Light was fading quickly. The grizzly dropped to all fours and came rolling forward, and then he stopped, for Jack had suddenly disappeared from the face of the earth. He had fallen down a coyote hole, squirrel gun and all. The bear went up on his hind legs again and peered everywhere. He snarled. He roared. Jack waited 20 feet down, afraid the grizzly would fall in on him. Then the sound of the carpinteros burying acorns caught the beast's attention. He went crashing away to go climb a tree.
boys and girls, I'm hoping you all realize a coyote hole is just a name for a hole that was dug at some point for the miners, right? They were looking for gold, so they dig down really deep, a good 6 to 8 feet deep, trying to find gold down low. And they would call them coyote holes. Now, it said that he was hoping to flush out a rabbit, and instead he flushed a grizzly. I hope you guys know we're not talking about flush like, oh, I flushed the toilet. Okay? They're talking about he hoped to like scare a rabbit out to come. He's hoping to find one. Could you imagine being alone? The sun is setting, the sky is starting to change colors, and all of a sudden there's a grizzly bear in front of you, and you have a little tiny squirrel gun. A squirrel gun would be like having like a BB type gun, basically. That's not going to do much against a huge grizzly bear. So now he's backing up, and suddenly he disappears. Does the grizzly know about the coyote hole? No. Grizzly bear is just a grizzly bear. And he's like, wait, the person disappeared. And then he takes off another direction. Here we go.
Jack was scraped and bruised, but had broken no bones. It was only after he tried to climb out of the hole that he realized he might be late for supper. He couldn't get out. The sheer earthen walls gave way at every hand and foothold. Once he got himself halfway to the top, only to tumble to the bottom with a small avalanche of loose dirt. He began to call out, even though Camp was too far away for Praiseworthy to hear him. He shouted anyway, and waited, and shouted again. Finally, he took aim at the dusky sky and fired. The explosion boomed like a cannon, and earth rained in on him. When the dust cleared, a face appeared overhead.
Help, sir!
What are you doing down there?
Trying to get out, sir!
I heard you calling. You almost shot my hat off.
Sorry, sir.
I'll throw you a rope.
After a moment, the rope tumbled in on Jack. He took a firm grip, hung onto the squirrel gun, and the stranger pulled him out. Jack planted his feet on solid ground and heaved a sigh of relief. He was dirt from head to toe.
I'm obliged, sir.
Why, you're just a lad,
the man said, coiling the rope and hanging it on the saddle of his horse. And then Jack took a look at the stranger. He was a big man with worn boots and a white coat. A white linen coat. Cut-Eye Higgins' coat. Jack backed away, almost stepping into the coyote hole again.
What's the matter, boy? You look like you've seen old Scratch himself.
Jack's heart was pounding.
I know who you are. You're a road agent.
Now that's a fact. But I've retired from the road agent profession. That's a fact, too. The boys was all shot, hung, and lost their ears. I got away with a load of buckshot in the seat of my pants. Why, I ain't been able to sit down in a month. Me and my horse, we both walk and hunt grizzlies. I'm reformed, that's a fact. You ain't seen a big fella around here, have you? I've been on his tracks for 2 days.
Jack got a grip on himself, but he kept his distance.
I'll bet you're still out hunting for Dr. Buckby's mine.
Mine? What mine is that, boy?
Jack blinked. Didn't he know? Hadn't he ripped open the lining of Cut-Eye Higgins' coat? Jack found himself leveling the squirrel gun.
You pointing that thing at me?
The reformed road agent laughed.
Yes, sir.
Now that's no way to treat your benefactor, is it?
You stole that coat you're wearing, didn't you?
I reckon I did. Belong to a friend of yours? Why, it gives me a bad conscience to wear this coat, although I was awful fond of it. I'd appreciate it if you'd give it back. Always was too tight on me anyway.
He peeled off the linen coat and threw it toward Jack. Jack let it lie on the ground, even though he could hardly wait to get his hands on it. The map must still be sewn up in the lining. The man took the halter of his horse.
Now, if you'll just let me walk away without shooting, I'll be obliged. Sure you ain't seen a big grizzly around? With the price they're paying for bear steaks, he's almost worth his weight in gold.
He just left.
Then I'll be going.
The ex-highwayman started away and then turned with a final laugh.
Boy, the next time you point that squirrel gun at a bad hombre like me, you really ought to trouble yourself to reload it first. Good luck, boy.
Jack's face reddened under the layers of dust. He watched the man disappear through the trees. He was sorry he hadn't been more polite to his benefactor.
Thank you, sir.
So, who is this man that couldn't sit down? Well, you guessed it. He's wearing Cut-Eye Higgins' coat. So he was one of the road agents that robbed Jack and Praiseworthy and Cut-Eye and the other passengers on the stagecoach. And remember, they took all the coats of everybody because they said maps would be sewn up in the linings. Did it sound like this guy knew anything about a map? He didn't seem to mention it, right? And is he still robbing people? Did you guys catch on as to why? Did you notice everyone else was shot, hung, or lost their ears? One of the penalties they used to do was to cut off people's ears. Crazy, right? So here he's met this guy, and it says he got away with a load of buckshot in the seat of his pants. Do you know what buckshot is? It's from a gun. So with a gun, that when you shoot, the bullets kind of spread outward. So this guy got shot in the butt, and that's why he can't sit down. All right, so we've got Cut-Eye Higgins' coat, and he's safe. And silly Jack, he didn't reload his gun. He was pointing a gun at this bad guy who really isn't a bad guy, but Jack didn't know that. And he didn't even have his weapon loaded. All right, let's see what happens when he brings the coat back to Praiseworthy.
Praiseworthy was just getting up to look for his partner when Jack burst into camp.
Look what I've got.
Praiseworthy peered at the white bundle Jack had made of the coat.
If that's a rabbit, I'll eat beans.
It's Cut-Eye Higgins' coat.
Jack quickly told of meeting up with the grizzly, falling into a coyote hole, and being pulled out by the reformed road agent. Just as quickly, Praiseworthy unclasped his knife and ripped open the lining. They laid open every inch of the coat. They examined and re-examined it, and Jack's excitement died away. There was no map. There had never been a map sewn in the lining of the coat.
The scoundrel deceived us. He never lost the map to those highwaymen. It has no doubt taken him to Shirttail Camp, and he may not have located the mine even yet. Otherwise, he wouldn't bother to pull teeth. Put some beans on to fry, partner Jack. First thing in the morning, we'll start for Shirttail Camp.
Alrighty, so they know where Cut-Eye Higgins is, right? Because as they were traveling and looking for a place to find gold, we call that prospecting, they came across that miner with a toothache. And he was headed to Doc Higgins. And he told them that Doc Higgins is in Shirttail Camp. Then Jack, because he's tired of eating the stuff they've been eating, goes out trying to find a rabbit, but instead falls in that coyote hole and meets the road agent. Luckily, the guy was reformed, meaning he was really sorry for what he had done and was trying to change his ways. They get the coat and realize the map was never in the coat. So if the map wasn't in the coat, it means Cut-Eye still has it. Which, would that surprise you? I mean, he's kind of been a liar this whole time, right? So they're off to Shirttail Camp in the morning. It's going to get real exciting, boys and girls, because the next chapter is titled The Grave Diggers. All right, so your job right now is to go ahead in your chapters 14 and 15. You should have already done the 14 one for prospectors. That would be a short one. And now you're going to do the man who couldn't sit down. You're going to type your summary in here, making sure that you're using your own words. You're capturing the overall main idea of this chapter. Like, what's the big deal? What was this chapter about? And then give us those key events. Do you really think it's key that, like, time is passing and Jack's thinking about things? No. Okay, who cares about that? We care about the details that keep the story moving, the things that are going to keep the action. You know, because of this, then this happens in the story. So you want to capture those key events in the summary. And then, of course, put a picture here. All right, boys and girls, get to writing. can't wait to read what you write.